Niger, a word of caution to the dogs of war. The Niger coup is taking a new dimension, with the military junta rejecting every diplomatic move by ECOWAS, Nigeria, African Union, and the United States. There are warmongers who think going to war with Niger is the only solution to the military intervention in its politics. Let's take a look at what Fẹmi Fani Kayode said about the development in Niger. I am on record as saying that if Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, or any other country attacks Nigeria, violates our territorial integrity, or attempts to take 1 inch of our nation, we must and will fight them to the last man. I've also said that Nigeria's defense budget is far higher than all the other 14 countries in West Africa put together, and that there is no nation in our sub-region that can defeat us in a military conflict, despite our many challenges. I stand by these words. I'm however constrained to add the following as a word of caution to those who seek to cry havoc and unleash the dogs of war, and as a piece of unsolicited advice to the advocates of military invasion. It would be imprudent and unwise for Nigeria to attempt to clean up France's mess in the Niger Republic. The French are the most rapacious, greedy, vicious, perversive, destructive, and unrelenting neo-colonial power on the African continent. They have done nothing for Africa other than pillage, rape, undermine, plunder, and take advantage of her. To deploy our military and go to war to spill Nigerian blood just to help her to continue to gang rape the Nigerians and subject them to slavery would be unjust, wicked, short-sighted, stupid, and counterproductive. It would have implications for the stability of our nation, our entire sub-region, and our increasingly fruitful relationship with President Putin and the Russian Federation, who are slowly emerging as Africa's best friend. Together with the Chinese, appear to be the only foreign power that truly seeks to assist and support the growth and development of African countries. To those who believe that Nigeria ought to continue to be the poodle, local enforcer, and hatchet man of the French, the Europeans, the British, and the Americans in our sub-region, I ask the following question. Who do they think is behind Boko Haram and ISWAP, and why did the so-called Western allies refuse to sell us arms to fight those terrorist organizations until Trump came along? And of course, since Trump left, we have been given nothing. Not one of them truly cares for Nigeria in the way the Chinese or Russians do, and to them, we are nothing but a source of mineral resources and a local sheriff. They want us to go and fight a war against our African brothers just to further and protect their own economic and regional interests, and they want us to throw the West African sub-region into a theater for a horrific, brutal, and never-ending proxy war between them and Russia, which would result in turning the whole of the West and North African sub-region into a cauldron of fire. Worse still, they want northern Nigeria particularly, and the entire African Sahel region and all the countries in it to be burnt to ashes and go the way of Ukraine, Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Afghanistan. While they sell their arms, test their weapons, pillage our resources, and turn our people into homeless, destitute, and penniless refugees, destroy our collective future, and serve our flesh and blood on a dark satanic altar to the sinister forces and the bloodlusting vultures and demons that they work for and serve. We must never allow this to happen. If the truth be told, the biggest mistake that ECOWAS made in the first place was to threaten Niger with military action if they refuse to step down and restore President Bazoum to power. I say this because once a threat is issued and it is not followed up with action, you look weak, ineffective, and pathetic. That is the country we are now, and the wisest things to do at this point is to step back from the brink and rhetoric of war and engage in diplomacy. deploying our troops into a neighboring country in an attempt to effect regime change on behalf of a bunch of punch-struck, power-obsessed, feral psychopaths like the French, whose primary dream and fantasy has always been the dismemberment, destabilization, and destruction of Nigeria, is unacceptable. To do the dirty work for a nation that stood on the wrong side during our civil war and that almost pushed us into the war with the Cameroons over the Bakassi Peninsula is deeply insulting to our sensibilities. I do not support military governments, and I cannot abide or stomach the way in which Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have threatened, insulted, and made mockery of our nation and people over the last few days. But one thing is very clear: the military regimes in all of those three countries are widely popular, and the hatred for France in each of them is palpable and irreversible. Why should we get involved in all this? This is not our fight, and if we chose to stand on the wrong side of the imperialists, neo-colonialists, and oppressors against the will of the people of these three sovereign nations, it may well result in chaos, mutiny, rebellion, and a revolution in our home country. This must be avoided at all costs. It's time to get sense and sheath our swords. This whole thing is obviously a Western conspiracy and trap, and we must ensure that our newly elected president does not fall into it. This is a time for restraint and wise counsel to prevail. It's time to put our national interest before that of any other. This is a time for us to indulge in some sober reflection and reject any bellicose action that would ultimately result in a reversal of the great strides that we have made as a nation over the last 24 years. A word, they say, is enough for the wise. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.